30 years ago, a girl with a bright smile and a red dress walked into our hearts and changed how we believe in love. We remember the laughter, the daring charm, the sweet surprises, and the promise that even in a hard world, kindness can open the right door. Time moved on. The city grew taller, the nights grew louder, and the rush of life got faster. But some stories do not fade. They rest like a song you once played every day, and then one morning you hear the first note again and your chest warms. That is this moment. The first note. The same spark, older now, wiser now, but still pure. She once dreamed of a life that fit like a perfect dress. He once learned that love is not a deal, not a line on a page, not a seat at a table. Love is a risk. Love is a hand held out in the dark. And now, after years of living, losing, trying, and healing, the old magic rises in the air like light after rain. You can feel it. You can almost see that famous smile. You can almost hear the laugh that cut through pride and fear and turned them into human hearts. The city still runs on money and speed, but under the rush there is a softer beat, steady and brave. It asks, can a fairy tale grow up and still be a fairy tale? Can a woman who learned her worth write her own next chapter, not as a wish, but as a choice? Can a man who once hid behind a wall step forward with an open face, not to rescue, but to stand beside? This is not a rewind. This is not a copy of the past. This is a return with meaning. A return that brings all the color of yesterday and sets it in the clear day of now. The red of the dress is still red, but the woman inside it stands taller. The suit still fits, but the man inside it breathes deeper. We have all changed with them. We grew up, we stumbled, we learned to say sorry, we learned to say no, and we learned to say yes when it matters. The fairy tale knows this. It is not here to pretend the world is simple. It is here to remind us that love at its best is simple. See me, hear me, choose me, and I will choose you back. Maybe you watched this story long ago with friends and popcorn. Maybe you watched it with a first crush and held your breath at the happy end. Maybe you watched it alone and found hope on a hard night. However it met you for real. That is why your heart leans in now. That is why your eyes search the edge of memory for a sign. A click of a heel, a sudden laugh. A door opening where you did not notice a door before. The tale returns not to make you young again, but to honor the young person you were, and the strong person you have become. It brings back the charm, yes, the style, the fun, the music that makes you want to sway down the sidewalk, but it also brings truth. That love needs care. That respect is romance. That dreams are not found. They are built one brave choice at a time. So listen closely. A promise is walking back into the room. The kind of promise that looks you in the eye and says, you are worthy. You always were. The kind that does not fix your life, but makes you braver in your life. The kind that does not cover the scars, but touches them gently and calls them yours. A modern fairy tale is not about saving someone. It is about two people saving the space between them and keeping it warm. After 3 long decades, the lights rise again. The title you know glows like a sign on a calm night. The love you remember steps forward with new shoes and steady steps. And you, smiling without meaning to, know the truth, the story didn't end. It was waiting for the right time to begin again. Once upon a time, fairy tales were simple. A girl, a dream, a man with charm, and a city that never slept. But 30 years later, the world isn't simple anymore. The same city that once glowed with neon lights now shines through screens and hashtags. Love letters have turned into text messages, and grand gestures have become rare like hidden gems. Yet somewhere between skyscrapers and screens, the heart still searches for something real. The story of Pretty Woman returns, not to repeat the past, but to redefine what a happy ending means. It's no longer about being rescued. It's about rediscovering yourself when life has already written a few chapters for you. Vivian, once the girl who found her worth through someone's eyes, now walks through the same city knowing who she is, fierce, graceful, unafraid of her own story. The laughter is still there, the sparkle in her eyes hasn't dimmed, but now it carries wisdom. She doesn't chase dreams anymore. She builds them. The world she lives in is faster, tougher, more digital, but her strength is timeless. In this new chapter, we see the echoes of her past, not as shadows, but as lessons. The woman who once wore a red dress to be noticed now wears confidence like armor. The streets she once walked are filled with people lost in their phones, chasing success, chasing someone else's idea of love. And yet, love finds her again, not because she needs saving, but because she has learned to save herself. He too has changed. The man who once believed power was measured by control now sees that power means presence. He's older, yes, but so is his heart, steadier, deeper, more open. The empire he built with walls now stands quiet, waiting for something to make it feel alive again. When they meet, it's not an echo of their youth. It's a reflection of what it means to find someone who remembers who you were and still sees who you are becoming. Their story isn't about glitter or perfection anymore. It's about balance, the kind that only comes after you've lost it once. The camera doesn't linger on riches. It lingers on quiet glances, on silences that say more than words, on small acts of kindness that feel like miracles in a world that moves too fast. The fairy tale has grown up. The prince and princess are no longer trapped in castles of wealth and beauty. They're learning to live in the real world, where love means staying even when it's hard, where dreams mean building something together. In this reimagined world, Cinderella doesn't wait for a slipper. She walks barefoot until she finds a path that feels like her own. Vivian doesn't ask for permission to shine. She shines because she's earned her light. This time, the fairy tale isn't about a girl who becomes more because of a man. It's about two souls who become more because they dared to meet again, older, wiser, still human, through city lights, fashion runways, and silent car rides. The story unfolds with a heartbeat you can almost hear. Every shot whispers that magic never truly leaves. It only changes form. Love, after all, isn't about finding perfection, it's about finding peace. The sequel doesn't rewrite the past. It honors it. It asks a simple but powerful question. What happens when a fairy tale grows up, but the heart still believes? This is not a fantasy you watch. It's a mirror you look into. It's about the woman who worked too hard, the man who forgot to feel, the people who thought their story was over but discovered that love doesn't care about age or endings. Love only cares that you try again. So, as the city hums and life rushes on, a red heel taps against the sidewalk, steady, strong, confident. The world may have changed, but the rhythm of love remains the same. This is the modern fairy tale, not of rescue, but of return. Not of once upon a time, but of even now. A story that reminds us that love can be timeless if we let it grow with us. And as the music swells and the city lights blur into gold, one truth shines brighter than ever. Fairy tales don't fade. They evolve, just like us. Every fairy tale has its turning point, that moment when the music fades, and the silence starts asking questions no one wants to answer. In this new chapter of Pretty Woman 2, love is not a smooth road. It's a mirror that reflects everything you tried to hide. The laughter that once filled the streets of Los Angeles now echoes in empty hotel corridors. The red heels that once danced through life pause, uncertain. Time has changed both of them, their hearts, their hopes, their fears. But love, when it returns, never asks if you're ready. It simply stands at your door and waits to be let in again. Vivian thought she had learned every lesson love could teach. She built her own world, her own peace, her own rules. But when he reappears, the man who once taught her that love could feel like freedom, she realizes that peace can be shaken by a single memory. He walks into her life like a ghost, dressed in familiar clothes, carrying the same warmth, but also the weight of years unspoken. There is no fairy tale glow now, no perfect lighting, just two souls trying to remember how to talk to each other after decades of silence. Their first meeting is not a reunion, it's a storm. Every word feels like walking through glass. Every look feels like a question they're afraid to answer. He wants to apologize, but where do you start when, "I'm sorry, can't erase time"? She wants to forgive, but her heart doesn't forget the ache of being left behind. In her eyes, he sees what love costs when it's taken for granted. In his, she sees what regret looks like when it's too late to fix the past. Yet beneath all the pain, there's still that flicker, the same spark that once turned strangers into something more. The city outside doesn't stop. Cars rush, lights flash, and the world scrolls forward. But inside their hearts, time slows. The conflict isn't between them, it's within them. Vivian isn't the girl who waited to be chosen. She's the woman who learned to choose herself. And yet, part of her still wonders, can you open your heart without losing your balance? Can you love again without losing who you've become? He too battles his own ghosts. The man who once measured success in numbers now measures it in missed chances. Every time he looks at her, he feels both alive and unworthy. They meet in cafes where no one knows them, in hallways filled with old echoes, in quiet moments where the truth finally begins to breathe. Love is there, yes, but it's no longer easy. It demands courage, the kind that doesn't come with grand gestures but with small, painful honesty. It asks them to see each other not as who they were, but as who they are now. The woman who carries scars with grace. The man who carries guilt like a shadow. It asks if love can still be beautiful when it's not perfect. Then come the breaking points. The moments when they almost walk away again. Misunderstandings born not from anger, but from fear. A message left unanswered. A look mistaken for indifference. They both realize that love in this age is fragile, not because it lacks depth, but because it fears vulnerability. But somewhere in those broken moments, they rediscover the truth they once lived. Love doesn't need to be flawless. It just needs to be real. Vivian stands one night under the same city lights that once saw her begin. Her reflection stares back from a window, older but stronger. Behind her, he appears quiet, hesitant, honest. No grand words, no promises, just a presence. For the first time, she doesn't feel small next to him. She feels equal. They both do. Because now, love isn't a rescue. It's a partnership. It's learning to stay when staying scares you. It's forgiving not to forget, but to move forward. Tears fall, laughter returns, silence softens. The music rises again, but slower, deeper, no longer a dance of youth, but a rhythm of truth. This is the price of love, the ache of growing, the courage to change, the grace to try again. They walk side by side through the city that raised them, not as the dreamers they once were, but as the believers they've become, and as the night folds into dawn, the story finds its heartbeat again. Not in perfection, but in persistence. Because sometimes the bravest love story is the one that dares to begin. After the ending, there comes a moment in every story when the music slows, the lights dim, and the world holds its breath, waiting. That moment has come again. 30 years later, the fairy tale that once ended with a smile in a limousine now stands at the edge of something new. Pretty Woman 2 doesn't just invite us back into the dream, it dares us to imagine what happens after Happily Ever After. Because this time, the fairy tale isn't about finding love. It's about keeping it alive in a world that has forgotten what love truly means. The city glows differently now. It hums with neon and nostalgia, a mix of old and new like a heartbeat that refuses to fade. The streets that once carried laughter now whisper secrets of the past. The shop windows have changed, the fashion has evolved, but some things never lose their magic. A flash of red on the sidewalk. The faint click of heels. A memory wrapped in elegance. The woman we once knew doesn't need saving anymore. She is the story now, walking with purpose, grace, and power that time has only deepened, and then, there he is, the man who once looked at her like the world stopped turning. His hair may have grayed, his voice may carry weight, but his eyes still tell the same truth. He never stopped believing in her. The world around them has transformed phones, fame, and filtered dreams, but what draws them back together isn't technology or timing. It's the simple, timeless pull of unfinished love, the kind that lives quietly inside you until the universe decides it's time to let it breathe again. They meet once more, not in the noise of luxury or glamour, but in silence. A silence that speaks of forgiveness, understanding, and the kind of peace that comes only after storms. The air hums with nostalgia, but the moment is real, raw, and new. He doesn't ask her to come back. She doesn't ask where he's been. They just look, two people who have lived lifetimes apart yet somehow kept each other in their stories. The chemistry is no longer youthful fire, it's slow, grounded warmth. The kind that holds steady when life gets cold. But this is not just their story. It's ours too, for anyone who has loved and lost, walked away and wondered, hoped and hurt, and somehow kept the courage to try again. The modern fairy tale doesn't end with the kiss. It begins with the choice to love again despite the scars. It's not about the perfect couple walking into the sunset. It's about two imperfect souls walking into tomorrow together. The screen fades to black for a moment. Then a flicker. A red stiletto heel steps out of a car shining under city lights. That same heartbeat returns. The same rhythm from 30 years ago, but slower, wiser, stronger. A voice whispers softly, like a secret meant only for the audience. Every fairy tale deserves a second act. The music swells, not the dreamy waltz of the past, but a modern melody that blends nostalgia with confidence. Strings meet synths, old meets new, the soundtrack of a love reborn. The title appears in bold gold letters. Pretty Woman 2, 2025. Underneath it, a line glows faintly. A modern fairy tale returns. We see flashes, a red carpet, a shared laugh, a slow dance in a quiet room, a tear wiped away with a trembling smile. Vivian's voice lingers over it all. I thought my story ended when I walked away, but sometimes walking away is how you find your way back. Then silence. Just her laughter, soft, genuine, unforgettable. The same laugh that began it all, now wrapped in time and truth. The camera pans upward, through the city lights, into the stars, a visual echo of the first film's dreamlike ending. Now reimagined for a generation that grew up believing in love, fell out of it and still dares to believe again, because love, like fashion, always comes back, only stronger, bolder, more real. Pretty Woman 2 is not just a sequel. It's a reminder that fairy tales can grow up, that women can write their own endings, that men can change without losing their hearts. That time doesn't destroy magic, it refines it, and as the last frame fades, the whisper returns, soft, certain, timeless. This time, it's her story. The music stops. A single red shoe remains on the screen, elegant, iconic, unforgettable. Then the tagline appears, glowing softly against the dark. Love returns, where it all began. And just like that, the audience is left in silence, a silence filled with wonder, nostalgia, and the quiet ache of hope. The fairy tale that once belonged to a generation now belongs to all of us. It asks no questions. It makes no promises. It simply says, watch what happens when love gets a second chance. Because in a world that changes faster than hearts can heal, one truth still stands. Fairy tales may sleep, but they never die. They wait, patiently, for the moment when we're ready to believe again.